Back. Sorry, we
We're
had
back.
a very busy thing. Let me check this lady's microphone here.
Good morning.
Oh,
Oh, that's awesome.
All right, welcome. We're with Jeri Spittler. She's current city council member with the city of Clear Lake, former mayor, and also a candidate for District 2 supervisor running against the incumbent Jeff Smith and also Joyce Overton. Welcome.
Good morning. I have to giggle when I hear you two on the radio. You're such a cute couple, and I've enjoyed riding motorcycles with you and going to different functions. I brought you a gift this morning.
Aww.
I know you so well that I brought you a bar of soap, and it's called Morning Sucks. And
You know I don't like to get up in the morning.
you need help over there, Peter? So this is a special gift for you. It's actually an all-natural soap, and the box is adorable. But I couldn't resist because I know you that well.
Thank you
Yes,
so
everyone
much.
knows we hate mornings.
Oh, that's hilarious.
So good
It's
morning.
Cypress and orange peel. That's,
Yeah, it's a beautiful soap.
smells delicious.
Also-
Thank you.
But I just want to say, what a gorgeous morning in Lake County. Are we not blessed to live in this extraordinarily beautiful place?
Unbelievable.
The sun, I was sitting at the window waiting to come into this room, I guess in the green room, and the sun is coming through that window, and these antique buildings, oh, I love the energy in them. I love this building. I love just gazing out the window at the lake. It is just absolutely gorgeous. So
And the
I just,
mountains with snow all around us.
it's amazing. Thank you for having me here this
Awesome.
morning.
My
by the
first,
way.
my first question is, did Andy serve you any type of wine or beverages or
Coffee
Danish like
or-
the Carson show did?
In
or?
the green room.
Yeah.
No, I didn't get any refreshments, but I work out every morning. I spend an hour in the gym, so I got up an hour early this morning because my workouts usually
You're an
conclude
animal.
at 9, but I had to conclude by 8 to get here by 10. So,
Sure.
So is
so I
your
work out
husband a
every
real dictator when it comes to the training? Because I can imagine him
my
just
husband is my
snapping the whip.
best friend. He is my guru. That man
He's
has
awesome.
studied food since his cancer. You know, you don't look at cancer as something that's going to make your life better.
Right.
But I have to tell you, it has increased our awareness of what we're eating and our lifestyle to the point of me losing 38 pounds. I haven't been in this kind of physical fitness shape in so long. We have a gym. We used to open to the public, so all of our equipment is
Oh, I didn't
commercial
realize
and
that.
beautiful.
Cool.
But we don't open to the public anymore. We've just kind of downsized our life, and we're spending a little more time with each other and family. And but we go in the gym every morning, and we work out for an hour. I do about 25 minutes on the elliptical trainer, and then I do weight training. And this May 1st, I'm going to be 60. And a year ago, I just realized, you know, this is not a joke. I hurt all over. I've gained weight. I'm not happy with myself. And my husband was in the gym pounding every morning. I mean, he started working out. He's always worked out. But, you know, within 2 or 3 days of finishing radiation and chemo, that man was working out. And I contribute that to his success in beating his bout with cancer. So, so we go in the morning and do our workout. And so now I'm doing a really massive workout on my torso and my upper body. And it's starting to really show. So it's exciting and
No
fun.
grandmamas for you, mama.
You know, it's interesting, and you have my total respect for doing that because it takes a lot of mental strength to do that, especially when you have a really busy schedule running a business. And I'm not kissing up here, guys. It's the facts of life. Is that anyone that can go through the routine that you do with your husband and do everything you do, you have my respect for that.
Well, thank you.
And what's nice is that lady sitting across from us has committed through our health insurance now
Yes.
to go to a twice a week for how many months?
Six. I think it's a 6-month program.
Right, to go and
Twice a
start going
month.
through physical exercises through the wellness center
With the
at St.
Wonderful.
Helena.
diabetes clinic over
Yes.
there. at
Fantastic.
So,
Liverpool.
you know,
Yeah.
this is a start for her to get into a routine.
I'm
so when
hoping it'll lift my metabolism, so I won't be so
Listen,
like
it lifts-
not feeling it. You know?
I was feeling really lethargic.
Right.
I hurt all over. I was
Right.
having a lot of pain in the rib cage.
Right.
I started going to the doctor saying something's wrong with me, and they kept telling me nothing's wrong with you. And I'm thinking,
Yeah, ours
yes,
said
there
it's
is.
old age.
You know, I hurt all over, and I don't feel good. And I wanted them to tell me something was wrong with me. But the fact is, I was so out of shape that it does hurt to be
It
out
does.
of shape, and
Yeah.
it doesn't
It
feel
does.
good. I
Yeah.
was eating a lot of GMOs and
Yes.
and unhealthy.
Oh my
foods
God! I
and-
had a heart attack the first time we went into that little store in Upper Lake, and all the junk food that you bought. I said, "Oh my God, how is she still alive? If this
I
is
was
what
making making
she
myself
eats.
sick. So I don't eat sugar anymore.
Good.
I make a morning drink. I do a lot of fresh ginger root because
Oh,
that
yeah.
lowers your chances of colon cancer, ovarian cancer.
Exactly.
It reduces inflammation, which as
Makes a
aging we all
wonderful
know
tea, too.
inflammation. So I'm doing all the right things.
Yep.
I feel great. I'm energized. I'm up for this campaign. I want that seat, and I'm ready to go.
Oh,
So-
great.
Well, since you started bringing that up now, we'll get
All right.
into the real life issues here. Is why are you running?
Why am I running? I am running, first of all, because I am enjoying the space I'm in life. I like the fact that I'm able to think and use my brain in a positive way to contribute to some kind of force in my community. I look at my community and I'm really saddened by what I've witnessed over the last 30 years. I've owned and operated a business on Lakeshore Drive for 20 years, and I bought that business on a promise that the water side was going to be this beautiful boardwalk, and the city was going to take the redevelopment monies and buy all the properties on that side. As a matter of fact, my realtor was Ellen Lambert at the time, and her husband was Gary Lambert, who was the mayor. So I felt like the information I was getting was pretty clear that this redevelopment money was going to do these great things for my community. And so I bought the building, and for 20 years, my husband and I have developed that building. So when I look around and I realize we're one of the few that for 20 years spent 20 years of our lives developing that piece of property, and from top to bottom we've touched every inch of it, and it's refurbished and beautiful. And so it saddens me to know that we had that kind of money and there's nothing you can see or you can lay your finger on that redevelopment did for that community. That really saddens me when I look at the whole scenario of what poverty brings into a person's life. So I am running because I want to see change. I believe I'm an advocate for change. I don't have big signs in front of every winery along Highway 29. Oh my gosh, it looks like a sign war out there. So I don't have big connections with big real estates or property owners to have a big sign in front of a winery or a big piece of property that's for sale, but I did buy 100 signs, and they are gone, and they're peppered all through the neighborhoods in front of homes of people that have known me and see that I will take a punch and get my wind back and stand back up and continue telling the truth.
Always, yeah.
Are
That's
you-
what I love about you.
Do you have any major? You don't have to name names, but do you have any major contributors to your campaign financially or otherwise, or is it strictly just grassroots?
I've been endorsed by CEWA. That's the union that supports our IHSS workers.
Oh, that's
so
good.
I have their endorsement, and I'm contemplating more. We'll see after the weekend
Okay.
what I have.
Cool.
Excellent.
All right. What about campaign funds? You doing that? Just I noticed your yard sale sign.
I've done really well with campaign funds. I've had my kickoff. I did a dine at my home. I have another one coming up on the 22nd.
What
where
fun.
It is fun. I've opened up 10 seats at my own dining room table and cooked a meal. My two beautiful daughters were serving, and I just think it's a great way to get to know some of the people that are supporting you and raise money. So my second one is also sold out.
Yeah, I was going to say, you're not having any trouble filling those seats.
No, it's really fun, and I love to cook. I'm a creative person, and I think through food is just another avenue to be creative.
Well, I think you have actually used food in your life, especially recently, to do so much to help so many people. And it started with the Thanksgiving dinner. As far as I know, I think that was the first public.
It was, that was
Feeding.
that's just something that,
Just
again,
for fun. Yeah.
I posted on Facebook, who is serving? I'd really love to go serve. And next thing I knew, I had 10 or 15 people saying, well, let's create a meal. And
Yeah.
I said, okay, let's do it. And,
Yeah.
and so those are the kind of things that I really enjoy. I enjoy...
It's like you're healing your community with food. I love to see the people that came out for Thanksgiving, because it was all kinds of people.
It was fun.
And then Christmas was another one.
Was
that you
another one.
Also did that at the senior center. The first one was at the youth center. And then from there, you developed and helped develop the warming center, which was another wonderful thing that happened to our community, where the homeless had a place to go at night to keep from freezing.
Right.
And with the help of the supervisors providing funding and Lake County Family Resources, they were really...
Well, the in-kind service. I
Yeah.
think altogether the project, we spent about $25,000, and that did not cover any of the food or the medicine or
And the food was all donated.
all
and
in kind from the community, from stores, their overage. St. Helena Clear Lake was just wonderful. They used their bus to go pick up the homeless and bring them in. You know, we were feeding more people than actually stayed at night. So we were
Yeah, a
feeling
lot of
needs.
local people that lived in town but couldn't afford meals would come there to eat as well, right?
Right, it's a need.
No one's turned away.
And no one was turned away.
And the bridge is now carrying on that tradition now with lunches that the same people that cook for the warming shelter are now cooking for the bridge.
Right.
So what a wonderful thing to continue. I know, I'm sorry, I keep interrupting you, but this is
No, it's not interrupting me.
it's our show and it's my friend. So
It's your
And
show.
Terry's
I'm
been
just,
cooking too.
I'm just sitting here just
but to me that's one of the most physical get your hands on thing that I've seen you do as a city council woman. There's all kinds of things you do that people don't see, but this is some of the more visible stuff.
Well, I'm going to let you talk. Peter,
That's all
but
right. I'm
I
just
just
hanging
want I just want to say that
You're
I've been
overrun.
serving my community for many years.
Exactly.
It didn't just start with winning the election.
No, you
and
had the
seat for
Joshua
city
project,
council.
is that what it
I've had
was?
many projects. I
And
I
other
think one of my
things?
first projects that I can remember was I had a friend that was working at a care home over in Lakeport, and she said, "Jeri, this Latino boy is so sick. He's 18 years old, and he fell out of a pear tree and broke his leg. But when they put him in the hospital, they realized he was full of colon cancer. and
Oh, no.
He's got about 6 weeks to live. He doesn't speak English. They've got him over at Skilled Nursing Center in Lakeport, and it's so sad. He's dying. They've given him 6 weeks, and so a friend of mine, Teresa Hernandez that owns Cabos, her and I went over there. I said, Teresa, I know you speak fluent Spanish. We went over there, and we prayed with him. And I don't know if you've ever been around a Latino that prays in Spanish, but it is the most incredible spiritual experience. And so we prayed with him, and as we left, we were both sobbing. And she said he wants to go home and die in his mother's arms.
Aw.
And so we put together, we started putting the word out into the community, and Catholic Charities helped us, the airlines helped us. My daughter Christy and I went over, picked him up from the care center, and took him to the airport. He was in a wheelchair, very, very sick. We were able to get him onto the plane. UC San Francisco supplied all the meds. We passed those to the airline pilot, got him on the plane, flew him home, and he passed away 2 weeks later with his family.
Oh,
So
how wonderful.
these are things that when you own a business, you have these opportunities that come to you to do the right thing. And so for 20 years, I've just felt very grateful that I have been in the position to be able to participate in many things that you just do the right thing. And so it's just a natural phenomenon for me to be with my community and to do these kind of things.
I know, it's
I'm
such
not
an
patting
honor,
myself on the back.
No,
I'm just
but-
saying that my community is amazing. That we don't have a lot. We're very, very poor, but
So
we will
true.
break bread and share with anybody that really has need.
Exactly.
So,
And it's good to see the vision. In other words, the ideas come and you say, why can't we do it?
Right.
And you make it happen.
Exactly.
And that's what I love. So thank
Exactly.
you for doing that, and continue, please.
I'll never forget his name. I just want to say it, Ever Flores.
Oh.
So, anyway,
Anyway,
Get me all choked up now.
so our listeners understand and you understand, is that our approach to interviewing candidates are a little bit different than other individuals I've heard, either KPFC or otherwise, is that we have some hard questions, obviously, that need to be answered, but everyone asks those same questions. What we try to accomplish here is to get our listeners, or one or two of them, to understand who you are as a person, not necessarily what your real issues are, because everyone can read a paper, pick up something, or just give you a call and say, hey, where do you really stand on this? We want to get to know you as a person, and if you're a quality person running for office, are you sincere, and get the listeners get the true personality of you. So
Thank you.
that's why we let my wife ramble. So anyway, now,
You
It's
guys are
important to
funny.
know what
It
she
is.
does for people.
I
you
totally
know?
agree. That's why I didn't
This
interrupt.
is one of the doers. This
So-
is not a talker.
Anyway, with the fundraisers you have at home with the dinners, have you ever had anyone yet show up that really is either doesn't know you that well or is not necessarily a fan politically of you that you've had an opportunity to talk to and maybe change their mind?
no, I've had a great group. I'm really looking forward to the 22nd. I have another great group. John Bronson is going to be at the table.
Oh, cool.
Joe Cunningham Cunningham, her son Sam, and her husband will be at the
lovely.
table.
I love them.
I think
Haven't met them yet, though.
Frank Taylor will be at the table.
Oh, cool.
Oh no, I'm sorry, Robert Taylor. I
Robert
always
Taylor.
want to call him Frank. I don't know what that is, to me. But Robert Taylor. So it's going to be a fun group of people
Yeah, it
again,
is.
and I'm going to be.
And you're sold out again.
I'm sold out
so
again.
you're just going to keep doing it as long as you keep selling out, right?
Well, I'm looking at May. I'm pretty booked up for April with events and things to do. I'm looking at May now. Gee, what shall I do in May? I'm pretty creative, so I'll think of some things to do.
Cool,
Yeah.
cool.
All right. So would you object to somebody signing up for one of your dinners that didn't necessarily know much about you or anything?
I wouldn't object at all. I
All right,
think
that's
that
good.
if somebody were to want a seat at my table, I don't think they'd. I think if they were going to come into my home, they would have the right intentions. I always.
Well, I
like
don't
to
mean
think
anyone
people have
being
good
negative. I'm
intentions.
just talking about sometimes maybe people are like, hey, I don't know who this person is. I live in her district. Maybe I want to buy into her dinner and get the opportunity to meet her and discuss some of the issues.
That was the reason I put him out there.
There you go.
I put out 10 seats, and the first time it took about 3 days to sell my 10 seats, and the second time it was less than 24 hours.
Okay, I want to talk about a subject that
Yes.
you brought to my attention, along with other people, obviously. And I don't know how many people in your district understand the in-depth process you've gone through. And there's not a major issue on the county level, but I think it shows something about you is your investigation into the incorporation of Clear Lake. Okay. What did you actually find out about that? And in hindsight, if we could go back in history, would you, if you were on the council at that time, would you have decided to go into incorporation for the city of Clear Lake?
Gosh, I can't go back 30 years and try to have the mindset of what the city was feeling. I did read the incorporation documents. I asked for the state to give me the documents, and the documents. The county initiated the incorporation. They said that the people in the city of Clear Lake felt that they could run their city better with their own city government. But the fact is that the documents were initiated by the county. And at that time, LAFCO wasn't a state entity. It was actually an oversight committee that was run by the county. So basically, an oversight committee by the county, run by the county.
We
So-
know all about oversight committees
so
around here.
it eventually, was taken over by the state. But at looking at the documents and the money and everything going on, there's one really important fact that's missing. It's mentioned once in the documents, but no one that served on the committee, because there's several of those people still around, nor the county nor the state has the fiscal analysis. And that's a very important document. And I don't know if it was ever done, if it was shredded or where it went, but it's not in the file. And it doesn't take a highly intelligent person to look at the status of the city of Clear Lake and see that we are not sustainable. I think if a budget was created that actually bought equipment and did the services that everyone else in the county pretty much takes for granted as far as road repairs or tree trimming or just regular dog animal control, just services the rest of the county seems to kind of take for granted that the city of Clear Lake cannot provide for its citizens. So I think if we were to create a budget that included all the things that we really need, we would be bankrupt. So basically what the city does is the city pays staffing and pays for a police department. And, that's really hard on the people living in the city, especially now with the city trying to pass taxes so that you can pay extra to live in the city of
Right.
Clear Lake.
Right.
So, I think it does all boil back to the incorporation. I just don't think the city's ever been sustainable. Our population now has doubled since the incorporation, making it even more complicated. There's a lot of technicalities as far as the roads that were created by the county when the properties were all subdivided up. They were ag lands, they were agricultural lands subdivided up, and it created all these so-called private roads, but they're roads all through the cores of our neighborhoods, all up in the avenues, and these problems were evident when the incorporation took place. And as you read the incorporation documents, they talk about how, once we become a city, we were going to have so much money to address all the problems that were existing when we incorporated, and the fact is those problems for 30 years have not been addressed. So we're in a serious
Okay,
shape.
well, let me ask you this then, because I know we could ramble about this for hours and really get into
could.
it, but if you are successful in your bid to become District 2 supervisor, what do you think you can do at the county level as a county supervisor representing your district to help the city itself?
Well, I'll be advocating for more projects and more infrastructure. You know, when I look at the city of Clear Lake at this point, we need a healing. We need help. You know, behavioral health does have some money going into it, and AODS is now, they're jointed together in one building, which is wonderful. But, you know, with AB 109, instead of just, you know, paying everybody overtime or getting bigger and beefier, I'd like to see some of those funds go into transitional housing, to some rehab. I'd like to see a homeless shelter that rehabilitates with a commercial kitchen and a thrift store so it's sustainable. I'd like to be advocating for more projects to go into District 2 because we need to heal, and it's not going to happen overnight. You know, with AB 109 releasing people into the community, that, you know, when I see these roundups done, and I'm not putting any department down in law enforcement or anything else, their job is very technical and extremely complicated, especially in an area like this one. And I do have family that's in law enforcement, so I am not somebody picking on law enforcement, but I do feel, I don't like to say but, that's wrong, but anyway, I would like to see more money going into a healing, because if you take a drug addict and put him in jail for being a drug addict, and then AB 109 releases him back into general population, he's a drug addict. He's still an addict. He hasn't gotten the help that he needs to correct himself. So now part of his parole is that if he uses drugs, that's an infraction, which is a violation that'll put him back in prison. Right. So without the right programs in place, what are we doing? We're just spinning our wheels. And these aren't just convicts. These are human beings. They have families. They have children. This is like human trafficking. To release a drug addict, part of his parole is to not be on drugs, but there's no program in place to help him stay on drugs, or transitional housing to get him on his feet, or any kind of trade schools that they can go into so they can retrain and be part of the community. It's just this vicious circle that's hurting everybody, and it's costing a lot of money, and it's unproductive. So
Exactly.
I'd like to see, if I'm at that seat, I'm going to be advocating for more programs and more institutional ways to heal and stop the circle of just incarceration.
Go ahead.
Before we go there, I just wanted you heard the caller that called before you came online.
I did.
On the air.
He called me a tweaker.
Yeah, so I'd like you to speak to that, if you would, please.
I've never done methamphetamine. I can tell you I'm a natural insomniac, and there's nothing I would do to increase that issue of mine, because I'm one of those people that my life is so busy. I've always had a house full of kids and run a business and very active in the community. So sleep sometimes when the house is quiet and I lay down, that's when my brain turns on. So I've never, ever done methamphetamine. I feel really bad for people that do. And I want to say that when I moved here 30 years ago, methamphetamine was really rampant. I mean, it was everywhere. And you don't see that kind of methamphetamine anymore.
Right.
I mean, thank you, law enforcement, for getting those big...
the labs.
Yeah, getting rid of them. I think law enforcement's done an excellent job in Lake County. The meth isn't like it used to be. And I want to take this time to thank our law enforcement officers for removing that. I think that meth is the devil himself, and I'm grateful that we're getting it out of our county, because this is a
Absolutely.
beautiful place to live, and we don't need that here.
Yeah.
Speaking about law enforcement, and then we'll go on the same side. You mentioned about rehabilitation and all the other good stuff you mentioned. Do you feel that if elected as a supervisor, you need to work with the sheriff's department in conjunction with some of these things?
You know, I don't know the steps to take, I'll be honest, but I will be advocating, and I suppose in that position I'll have more chance to network with those entities. And I know that what we're doing now doesn't seem to be working. It's just a circle of incarceration.
I do know that, unfortunately speaking from some experience, that when you're dealing with the prison system, be it jail, prison, or whatever, that some of the rules in force and the legalities of the situation really become cumbersome in trying to do the right thing, because the number one concern of law enforcement is security at the prison level. And sometimes that security issue comes into play with trying to provide the necessary needs of some of the inmates. And unfortunately, a lot of the correctional officers, and I'm not speaking about the local here because I have no experience with that, is sometimes they just look at you and say, You're dirt. You're nothing. You're worse than a cockroach. So why should we even want to help you? And that's a lot. That's very prevalent in the prison
Prevalent.
system.
Mhm.
Prevalent. Thank you.
Well, it's got to be a really hard job, because you do see the negative. And, people think that, I did, for one. I thought that prisons were to rehabilitate. They were big rehabilitation centers. I had no idea about the prison culture until my son was incarcerated when he was 20 years old. He's still incarcerated. He's 38. So I see how the prison system does not rehabilitate.
Yeah.
It's vicious. It's violent. 85% of our inmates have a mental disorder of some kind and are on medication. So, and that's the addicts and the addictions. So until at the federal level we change the way we manage addictions, alcoholism addictions, it's not going to change. So I don't know if I answered your question,
No, that's good enough.
Peter, but I
I
think
don't know if it
that's
was a
where-
question. I think it was more of a...
Right. I think that's where the negativity comes from. It's just, it doesn't rehabilitate. I can't imagine being locked up with a bunch of angry people and that are coming down off drugs or still getting drugs inside there, or, it's a horrible situation.
And for those out there who think that inmates do not get drugs through multiple sources, you're wrong. They do.
Right. They get drugs.
No matter how good law enforcement is, they get their drugs.
They get their drugs.
Yeah,
so it's a really horrible situation, and I just think that that type of law enforcement, but if we had those transitional housing like Delancey Street, or we had a big commercial kitchen where we were cooking and feeding the hungry in our community and teaching those skills to work in a commercial kitchen, I think if we could change the outcome, I think that's because what the correctional officer sees is that same person coming back in. It's just this revolving door. So what else should they think? These people are just idiots. They're scumbags. They just keep coming back in. But once we put things in place that, even if 1 out of 10 people, it put them on their feet and back into functioning into society, maybe there'd be a different outcome by the correctional officers if they could see that these people are rehabilitatable and they can get back on their feet and be a productive person in the community. But I can tell you, the jobs are slim and few in our county. So if you fill out an application and it says, have you ever been arrested for a felon, and you check that box, yes, that application's going right in the trash. And from my experience, so I don't want to judge everybody, but from my experience, but if we have these transitional housings or these skill centers, people will have a better chance of getting on their feet. So maybe that revolving door, it won't be that way. We can change this. I'm a positive thinker, and I really believe that people deserve the right to have the chance, a fresh chance, and I don't think they're getting it in Lake County.
Right. Okay, let's get on quickly. Here's some other issues. Let's go right to the meat of some of the stuff going on in county. What is your position on Measure L?
Measure L, I support Measure L, and I'll tell you why. It has a sunset clause. It's got a 10-year sunset clause. So if it doesn't work, it'll be done in 10 years. But one of the first things out of a person's mouth when they know that you're a public servant is, what are you going to do about the lake? Well, I served on CLAC for almost 3 years, and that was a committee that the Board of Supervisors eliminated here in January. But through that process, I learned a lot, and there were a lot of things in that measure in the beginning that were unclear. And I have to say, county staff has worked really hard to try to bring clarity, to make a budget that was transparent. I would like to see more money budgeted to the lower arm of the lake, of course, because it looks a little skimpy. There is money budgeted for the Burns Valley Creek, which that money should have been given to our area a long time ago by the county. It's a shame that we have to pass a tax for something that's that needy. But I am endorsing that because I really think that we need to have money to do more research. Just those beautiful pictures that were taken from satellite really gave us a lot of information, but they're very spendy. And if we want to further our knowledge, the quagga mussel, that is an invasive species that I'll tell you, if that gets into our lake, we're done. And that's something serious that we need to really look at. I really wish the state would stop acting like the lake is our problem, being that we don't own the water, but we're liable for the water. I hope that as I learn on my journey that I can be a stronger voice at the state level. I'm a baby in politics, but I have tenacity and I have a lot of heart. So
do you believe that? God, I want to say this tactfully.
Mm-hmm.
Do you believe the powers to be will spend the money correctly and efficiently? Because to me, a 0.5 cent increase in the sales tax is a heck of a increase. And in prior experiences, we know that those funds aren't necessarily spent the right way.
I believe there's a huge group of citizens that will make sure that that money is spent correctly.
I hope you're not referring to the
And
oversight
We
committee.
don't know who's going to be on the
Well-
oversight committee, though. That's what worries me.
Well, I believe in my community, and I know the people that have a strong voice, and I truly believe that the money is going to go in the right direction. You're going to be able to see where it's going. And again, there's a 10-year sunset clause, so if the money isn't spent correctly, they won't get it again. I mean, that's a really important entity, that there is a sunset clause in this. They've got 10 years to prove that they can make a difference.
Yeah, that's a good thing. They put a cap
And
on it. We appreciate
They did,
that.
so,
Well, that was some of the feedback they got from the first round. We do have a caller.
Go ahead.
You ready?
I'm ready.
Hello, you're on the air.
Hi, I'm not sure if it's caller time, but I was so excited just listening to Jeri. Jeri, you are the bomb, and just knowing that you're that you would be one of the 5 seats is absolutely thrilling.
Thank
I'm
you.
so over our current 5.
Thank you so
But
much.
how cool are you? Dinner at home. I can't believe that. And I did a turnaround at age 50, and with no looking back as far as health. And I'm so glad that you're on the right track.
Thank you.
And I have a question. I'm through with GMOs. I'm trying to be, and all the rest of the crap that is offered to us. I feel like the Soylent Green has got to go.
Mm-hmm.
But my question is, will you help keep GMOs out of Lake County?
Yes.
Genetically modified
Yes.
organisms.
Good question.
Yes, a capital Y-E-S, because I can't believe they let him into our beautiful county in the first place. Denise Rushing really tried to fight that off, but wasn't able to. But I definitely do not want to see any more GMOs. My gosh, this is another part of my health that was really crazy. I have been seeing a doctor for almost 20 years with a stomach ache. I can literally pull records. I had Dr. Farley over here in Lakeport tell me, Jeri, for 17 years your complaint's been a stomach ache. And I go, I know I have a stomach ache. The minute I eliminated GMOs
Right.
from my diet, I no longer have those horrible problems. And I mean problems to where I was in and out of the bathroom 15 times a day, stomach aches that would literally debilitate me and put
But you
me
were
in
cleaning
bed.
it while you were there.
No, and so many kids have this problem. And the minute I stopped eating anything processed, I took the GMOs out of my diet, right down to meat, because they feed the meat the GMOs,
Right.
The animals.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
don't eat farm animals anymore, and the only meat that I'm still on is fish and only wild fish. But I have to tell you, my stomach aches are gone. The distension in my stomach is gone. Gosh, I just hope anybody listening that is
We can all
having
do
these
this.
horrible problems with their colon, just get the GMOs out of your diet. They are
They're killing us.
corn. Corn
Corn
is
is
the
the killer.
enemy,
Yep.
because what it does is it explodes the intestines of the insects. So it's doing the same thing to our intestines. It's causing lesions.
Exactly.
So I have to tell you, I have never felt healthier since I removed them
I'm so
from my
proud of
diet.
you.
Thank
You'll
you.
be around to help us out for years to come, maybe a couple of terms.
Thank you, Cheryl.
Hey, I wanted to say one more thing
Okay.
about fish oil. You mentioned joint pain, and if you do fish oil a couple times a day, that goes away. Because at age 50, I started
CoQ10
doing
too.
it. And
Right.
jumping up and down like a 19-year-old.
You're
Yes.
still a
And
spring
it
chicken.
also repairs after excessive wear and tear. Like, say you go out, dancing or whatever, for a day or so. The fish oil and the calcium, I do a bunch of that. And, so fish oil is good.
Thank you. I do chia seeds now. I put chia
I
seeds
love
in
it.
my morning
Absolutely.
fruit drink. I do a lot of chia
Okay.
seeds. They have the omegas
On our
in them
cereal
also.
and everything,
And
yeah.
that's fiber
Yeah,
too, which we need that fiber, ladies.
Thank you, Cheryl.
I can't wait to meet you face to face. Bye,
Oh,
Jeri. Thank you for everything.
You're welcome.
Uh-huh.
Peace, darling. Hello, you're on the air.
Hi, Cheryl. Bye, Cheryl.
Hey, now you're triple
triple dipping, dude.
Jeez, give other people a chance.
Jeri, you are just such the humane person. I mean, it's from the time that you got in arrears because of cleaning out the refrigerator. I mean, this is just really kind of crazy stuff, and especially when the speed thing was thrown out at you, because I know you hate the powder.
Oh,
Keep the powder out of my hood.
Oh,
I'm the one that coined that
Yeah.
a couple years ago. And it was a couple years ago when we were doing hiking and biking around the lake with Clandyken.
Yep.
And one of my favorite bicycle giveaways was there at the little community, the
At the
kids
youth
center,
center.
that you're
The
doing.
youth center.
The,
Oh, no,
the
she's
twins that got the Batmobile bicycle.
Yeah.
They just loved it.
That was actually at the youth center that Joyce Overton is operating.
What's that?
The youth center that Joyce Overton is operating, that's where the giveaway was.
Oh,
But that's
mind.
okay.
It's all right.
You're
It's-
good. It's all good. It's
still
wonderful.
good.
I love to
just
see
wanted
the kids
correct
in my community receive
Yeah.
gifts.
That was a great
but you're
program
gonna
It was
that we
fun.
did, yeah.
The thing is, you're going to continue to do stuff
Right.
like that. And
Right.
That's
I
what I
look so
do.
forward to having you and James Brown on the board.
Is that your endorsement now for those two positions?
Oh, absolutely, positively. I think it would just be yeah, and then we'll see what happens in the next seats 2 years from now.
Okay, thank
we
you
need
very
to move
much.
on,
We got to
Alan.
go.
Uh-huh.
Bye. Okay, go ahead. You're free.
Okay, Measure N.
Measure N. Vote no. It's pretty
Hello.
easy. N means no.
But why,
That's
though?
right.
Explain.
Because it was just too strict of an ordinance. It took patients' rights away, and I'm an advocate for patient rights. I think that this prohibition needs to be gone. I truly believe I'm a progressive Democrat, so I believe by 2016 we're going to legalize anyway. So all this work and all this running around and all this spending money and wasting time when we should be really concerned about the rights of the patient. So I'm an advocate for patient rights, and I do not think that you should have to buy it. When I looked at Measure N in the first place, I thought, well, that's really convenient. Looks like the only place you're going to be able to grow it is in Anthony Farrington's area and Rob Brown's area, and it would take the right of any person from being able to grow their own medicine. So I could not endorse that at all, no. So I'm no on N.
Thank
Good.
you.
Have you seen the new ordinance?
I have. I signed that.
Okay.
So I've read it. I think that it's a compromise.
Very much so.
Very
I
much
think,
so.
I think that 4 plants, that's less than the city of Clear Lake
Yep.
is allowed. You can grow 6 plants in our area. I think 4 plants is really reasonable. The breakdown is very reasonable. I don't think there's any reason why anybody should have to grow more than 48 plants.
Exactly.
Once it legalizes, I believe hemp or cannabis should be grown legally, agriculturally, like any other agriculture. But we're just not quite there yet. So this is all about the patients and their rights to grow their medicine.
Thank you. I agree.
So-
I think that
Okay.
this whole ordinance was originally designed to prevent the small people, but to promote the big people. It almost looked like it was a big grower's bill, the original ordinance in Measure N. It wasn't meant for the little people,
No.
and it eliminated the little people. So we have to vote this ordinance down in June, folks.
Exactly.
Okay, move on with that one, because that one could be another 4-hour conversation.
All right. Well, I heard that when I listened to Joyce on the radio. She did very well, by the way.
Yes, didn't
But
she?
I did hear a caller call in and say, "Well, you guys are talking about politics, and it's really boring."
Oh, you heard about that, yeah.
And So,
Yeah, we're really
Welcome to
sorry.
Lake County.
So I hope we're not being boring.
Well, the
this
thing I
morning.
want to
We'll
say
try
to
keep
those
it
people
peppy.
is if you voted, you wouldn't find it so boring.
Right.
So
That's true.
register to vote and be a part of the system instead of complaining about it.
I want to talk briefly, not about the gas and road tax and code tax and all the other junk that Clear Lake's been going through for the last X amount of months, but the workshops that are now going to be held. I don't know if it's workshop or workshops at this point, but your personal opinion as a citizen, besides just being a councilwoman for Clear Lake, do you believe that, number one, these workshops are going to be held in good faith? And you can interpret that any way you want. And then number two, do you believe that there'll be quality input by the citizens instead of the same old 4 people that show up every time? So we have a true consensus by the people of Clear Lake on what they feel and what they want to do regarding the roads and the taxation of therefore.
I like to believe that everybody has good intentions. We may not all see things the same way, but I would hate to walk around thinking that everybody's out to get me or has poor intentions. So I want to say that I believe that everybody has good intentions. I just like to live that way. And so I think that, a town hall meeting needs to happen. They've opted not to have it at City Hall to make it a little less formal. It'll be at the Senior Center. I did get an email asking me to about the 12th. I do have something to do I think around 11 on the 12th, so I'm hoping it's in the afternoon.
So it's going to be April 12th?
I believe so.
The first one? Okay.
I believe so, and I'm hoping it's in the afternoon. They didn't give me a time.
Don't you think it should be in the evening so those who work for a living actually can attend?
Right.
Well,
I'm
it's a
hoping
Saturday or something,
It's a
is it?
Saturday.
Oh, it is. Okay, I didn't
And so
realize
I'm hoping afternoon.
Yeah.
I'm hoping 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. That way seniors can get out and it's warm and get
We'll
home
be there.
before dark.
Fortunately, that's a day when I'm not doing my radio
And,
show. So.
From what my understanding, under my term, twice the taxes tried to be put through. This would be the third try, and I understand history has it that 5 times the tax has been tried to be put through. And I don't think that to live in Clear Lake, we should have to pay more to live in Clear Lake.
Right.
When I think that it's time that, the city of Clear Lake, the cord was cut 30 years ago, and it doesn't feel connected to the county. And that's just my personal opinion. A caller can call in and argue that, but I spend a lot of time with my community, talking to my community on a daily basis, and the community doesn't feel like the county is kind of just disconnected from us, and it's our problem. And there needs to be collaboration. There is no way on our city is almost 11 square miles, 10.6, and our budget is just a hair over $4 million. Now you look at the city of Lakeport, which is 3.6 square miles, I believe, and their budget is double that. So we have no money. The Proposition P takes 2/3 of that money, so there is no money for services. And I just think that it's time that we own up to the fact that Clear Lake is not sustainable. It's not okay. What we're going through over there saddens me to see what I'm seeing. I got very connected to our homeless during that warming center, so I know them by name. And to see them on Monday as I was leaving town and it was pouring rain, and I saw 2 or 3 of them trying to run for cover and they were soaking wet, that really saddens me. So, I think that not only the road tax just feels like another jab at something that's already really sad. And I don't think that, the road tax is going to fix our problems. There's so many. There needs to be collaboration with the county and not just try to put the burden again on a very, very poor community. 90% of our children in Canoctown Unified School District are on assisted lunches. 90%, that's almost every kid, qualifies for food at lunchtime. So the taxing thing, it just feels like a drop in the bucket to what's really going on. And there's the consensus that I get when I talk to people is, I don't trust the city government with another dime.
Exactly.
Thank you.
So,
the way we look at it, the council and the staff need to reevaluate what they already have. They need to look at what their benefits and retirement packages are containing at this point. They need to reevaluate their health care, especially now that the Affordable Care Act has been established, because I guarantee at least 3 out of the 5 members will qualify with no payments, and we've been on it for the last 2 weeks now, and I can't even begin to tell you the quality of care that we have
wonderful.
gotten. So it's nothing to be afraid of.
No, I just, like I said, I'm not advocating that we don't trust the city government. I am the voice of the people. So I am telling you what's being told to me. There is a lack of trust.
Absolutely. They have to rebuild that.
Because when we look at what's happened to our neighborhoods, just like, well, we need to cut back. We're going to eliminate code enforcement. Who in their right mind would have done that? It took us 20 years to get all the trailers and camper shells and kids living in these unsafe environments. Finally, we have some low-income housing. We need more. But when you look at what happened to the redevelopment monies, I'm not saying that the people that work for us don't deserve their incomes, because when you look at their incomes comparative to other cities and the size of our city and the population, it's not that far off.
I don't know. Peter did a study and...
Well, it depends.
Well, one of the biggest problems is the city just does not have enough money to be sustainable.
Right.
To buy equipment, to provide services, we don't have a boom truck to cut our trees, or we don't have weed eaters the leaves are still stuck in the fence at our parks from fall. We're in spring. There's just things going on that, I can't explain. I've tried to address these issues, and I can't figure it out myself.
could comment, but I'm not going to take your time up.
I just don't think there's enough money to run that city.
Well, I don't think that they're managing the money they have properly. That's my personal opinion. And with my husband, the accountant, who has looked at the city budgets, there's lots of room to cut the fat. And if they would just sit down and go through the budget with a fine-tooth comb in a way that creates no hardship on any staff member, but still takes out what is an unnecessary expenses. There's a lot of that stuff.
Well, I pay close attention to details. I'm one of those detail-orientated people. And so when I see small things like the front door that's been stuck open for 2 years, every once in a while they fix it, it stays fixed for 2 or 3 days, and it's stuck open again 5 inches. Well, that's our heating and air conditioning, and that bothers me. Another thing that I would like to see is I'd like to see our city hall open again 5 days a week.
Absolutely.
I think
that closing on Fridays is ridiculous.
It's hard I get a lot of flack from the community. They want our city hall open 5 days a week. The flag, there's another one that I just get constant complaints about, and we are going to address that as a council. Nobody seems to want to raise and lower the flag when it's been asked by the president, or we have a officer down or anything. The flag, it seems nobody wants to address the flag. We are getting to address that. There's just little tiny things, but those little things add up to something. When there's things that blatant in your face, what's going on that you can't see? When nobody will fix a door that's stuck open, but we'll spend $30,000 trying to put something on the ballot, but we won't spend a couple thousand to get the door fixed.
I remember, I think it was actually before you were council when you went over and had the building across the street that they own painted.
We did a grassroots movement, and we put all the broken windows, the boarded windows up, put glass in them. We painted, we cleaned it all up, because after all, it's our building, and if we're going to be, setting an example for the rest of the city to clean up Lakeshore Drive, how could we have a piece of property sitting there like that? So that was another fun project. The community
you did
likes
something
to do
with
that.
the bathrooms as well that didn't have doors.
The bathrooms didn't have doors, and that was funny because during my campaign for city council, I'd raised quite a bit of money, and I said to my campaign manager, "Can I, as a campaign thing, can I buy doors for the bathrooms?" Because for 30 years there had been no bathroom doors at Austin Park. I mean, you just walk in the door and see somebody trying to go to the bathroom.
My goodness.
And I said, "Can I use some of my campaign money?" They said, "No, you can't use it that way." But the minute I was elected in, they scraped up the money and put some doors on the bathrooms. Also, I worked really hard on common sense ordinances in our parks. You can no longer smoke a cigarette in the park legally, and you can walk your dog, even though the same signs are up. And Bunny and Robert at Tatanka's Mini Golf, they're incredible people, and I love the restoration they've done on our vintage golf course.
Fantastic.
It's amazing. And
I was so disappointed not to see that in our video.
Right, and they actually made the signs for us, 12 no smoking signs for our park, and they've been sitting on a desk for about 7 months. Nobody will put them up. So these are the kind of things that, to me, it's a slap in the face to the community. Things that we should have.
Speaking about slaps
Hold
in
on
the
one
face.
second. We have a
go ahead.
question from one of our listeners on Facebook. And she wants to know if there's going to be more services or programs developed for the youth and the homeless, anything in the plans inside Clear Lake that you know of, and countywide, would you work on developing those?
Oh, absolutely. This is right where I want to be, and this is why I want to get my hands in here and get this seat, because I'm an advocate for these kind of things. As far as a homeless shelter, Gloria Flaherty is facilitating a meeting right now. We just had our first one last week. We've broken into 2 groups, a 5-year plan and for next year, what will we do? We want to get that emergency warming center open sooner. We'd really like to identify property. There is a committee, the Curriculum of Care. I've served on that for 3 years. We're going after grant monies to try to facilitate some kind of center. So this is something that we know. This is not something we want. This is an absolute need. And absolutely, I will be advocating, and there are a lot of people working on it.
Well, the youth center is open now, but it's kind of limited in what services it's offering.
Well, I believe, yes, and there's a fee to take your children there.
Right. Let me interject you, because obviously the youth and the social issues are a forefront of your campaign and your true belief. What have you done, if anything, in communicating this with Jeff Smith who does represent your district over the, 16 years, 12, whatever, how long it's been now.
16.
What have you communicated to him? Has been receptive to your ideas? Has he done anything about your ideas?
No, I
I mean, that's who you're running against, so let's be blunt.
Right. Jeff isn't involved in this that I see now. I don't know what he does in his private time or if what he's done in his seat as far as advocating for that. I know the board did match monies with us for the emergency warming center, and I'm very grateful that they did that. I have to chuckle, and Anthony Farrington, I've known him for 20 years. I think he's has good intentions. I like him very much, but I have to remember during the time of the we were asking for that money, and he said, well, he thought the city of Clear Lake should be spending the money on the emergency warming center because, after all, they were our residents. But
that's Anthony's politics.
I just want to say, Anthony, they're home.
Come on.
But I do adore him, and I have nothing against him.
I love him to
As a matter of
death.
fact, I'm anxious to work with all the board members. I think I'll work well with them. I admire all of them for one reason or another. I think they all have good intentions, and they've all worked really hard for their districts. I have to tell you, I'll tell you the way, Rob Brown, I know everybody, Rob Brown, but when I look at, he's gotten almost $3 million worth of infrastructure for his community last year.
Yeah, he does good
That's
for
how
his
he
own
stays
little
in his seat. And
backyard, yeah.
I wish that, Jeff was, whether we're a city or a county, regardless, I wish that he had been advocating for more money for our district, because we are in a really hard place, and it's very sad. I want to tell you a little story. I like to walk. I love to walk my community, because there's no better way to see what your community's dealing with, really, until you walk it. So it was a sunny afternoon, and I said to my two grandsons, I said, hey, I'm going to walk over to the dollar store. And I live on Lakeshore Drive, and the dollar store's over on Olympic. I said, I'm going to walk over there and get some things to decorate the barrels over in front of City Hall. You want to walk with me? And they said, that's a long walk, Grandma. And I said, no, I'm gonna go through on Mullen. And they said, you're going to walk the cuts?
Oh, my.
And I said, the cuts? What is that? Well, that's the new terminology when you cut through the neighborhoods. And I said, yeah, I'm going to walk the cuts. And they said, no, Grandma, you can't. It's not safe. You can't walk the cuts. It's not safe, Grandma. You can't walk the cuts.
Should be nowhere in Clear
And I
Lake
looked
that's
at them,
not
my
safe.
kids, and I says, you know what? I'm putting my tennis shoes on, and I'm walking the cuts. And I've been walking the cuts ever since. And I see what they're talking about, because there's no traffic control. The roads are narrow. There's mud puddles. So you have to really be careful if a car is whizzing past you that you're not in line with a mud puddle, because you're going to get it. There's packs of dogs that'll chase you. There's homes that have been deserted with the belongings strewn all out into the yard. It is a little scary, and that's upsetting to me, because I think we deserve better, and I shouldn't have to leave my neighborhood to live in a better one. I'm here to be an advocate for those kind of things, to make the changes, to try and help, and I have good intentions.
Excellent,
Okay.
excellent.
Okay, quickly, because we're running out of time, unfortunately. What is going to be your number one priority if you're elected?
First of all, to get settled into my seat, I suppose.
That's a good answer.
My number one priority, gosh, there's so many, but to get settled into my seat and to start advocating for District 2 and that city, because that city, I think when people say you've bottomed out, we've bottomed out, and we need help, and it's going to take the collaboration of the county and the city together to raise that city back up to just a normal standard of living.
How are you going to make yourself available to the public?
I'm always available. My home number is 707-994-6303. You can call me anytime. That's also my business number. People just walk in the door. I've owned that building for 20 years. I am very accessible to my community, always have been. They just walk in the door and spill their guts, and I'm glad they do, because that's how
I've done
I
it
stay
several
connected.
times.
So have a lot of other people, and I appreciate that. I think that's part of what inspires me as my community. I'm very inspired.
I know this is a stupid question to ask.
There's no stupid question.
Yes, in this
Peter.
case, it really is.
Let me get my wooden spoon.
How does
to get
your
ready.
husband feel about this?
My husband is my best friend. He is so supportive. He loves me. He does everything he can to help me. We've got this great team. In the morning, if I dash out and the kitchen isn't done, he does the kitchen.
He's the best.
My husband is my sign pounder. He takes the grandkids here and there. I just can say that my husband is my backbone.
He's
I
like
love him.
my husband.
Well, they look a lot alike. It's kind of funny.
You know how many times I go out in Clear Lake? Tony, how you doing? I'm not Tony. Yes, you are. Don't play games. Yeah, whatever.
They're both Pisces, so that might explain that.
They're both.
Okay, well, we have to call today. I wish you could
Thank
stay
you.
longer, but we're done now. And we thank everybody for listening and all the callers and all the people on Facebook. We really appreciate all the input. And Jeri, as most people that listen to our show know, we are not endorsing any candidates publicly, but and we can't vote in Clear Lake anyway. But we're very happy to see that you're running for
I'll
supervisor.
interrupt about this. Breaking news. Russia has a massive buildup now of forces at the Ukraine, and they have 12 hours to dismantle or else.
Oh gosh.
That's serious, folks. That's
Well,
on
let's
CNN.
hope it doesn't lead to war. Let's put some peace, love, and vibes out there, okay? And hope
Yes.
for the best.
All right. Be blessed real good, everybody. Thank you for having me on your radio show, Terry and Peter.
Thank you, Jeri.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate you. Folks, that's it for Lake County Magazine. We'll be seeing you again next week at 9 a.m. And our guest next week will be candidate for sheriff, Bob Chalk. Have a good week.
Thank you for being a friend. Travel down a road and back again. Your heart is true, you're a pal and a confidant.